We'll likely be tracking a little wintry weather for some folks out there tonight, especially in eastern Kentucky where they have a winter weather advisory. We'll have the latest track on that little wintry round.
Investigators call it frustrating. 19 months have passed and still no good leads on the murder of one of their own.
And a late tip-off at Rupp Arena as the Cats look to get back on track after two close calls. Rob Bromley will get us ready live from Wildcat Central as Kentucky gets ready to take on Missouri.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 5.
Good afternoon. Okay, a winter weather advisory out now for most of southeastern Kentucky tonight.
Yeah, light snow and some freezing rain could make travel a little tricky later tonight. It is the same area that was dealing with icy conditions this morning. We begin with WKYT meteorologist Jim Caldwell, who is tracking it all for us on the First Alert Defender. How about it, Jim?
And as you know, guys, numerous cancellations and delays because of those slick conditions out there in eastern Kentucky this morning. Tonight, maybe a repeat in some cases. We're looking across Kentucky right now, and we're finding a lot of cold conditions, a lot of cloud cover. Now, eventually, out in the mountains, we're going to have a little influx of moisture that will allow for some of that freezing drizzle and even snow to develop. You look around us here in central and northern parts of Kentucky, we're running in the 20s, 27 degrees, a pretty common number. Lexington, Florence, and up in the Frankfort area, but 28 in Richmond. The winter weather advisory, as mentioned, is confined mainly out east. And there you see the areas highlighted from McCrary and Whitley counties all the way up to Magoffin, Johnson, and out into Martin counties as well. And you can see everybody in between for the potential of that light wintry weather tonight. Now, it runs through noon tomorrow, and that's mainly for the folks right there along the Kentucky-Virginia state line where it's going to hold on a little while longer. Defender not picking up on a lot of moisture yet, but you get down there into the mountains and you might be seeing some of that mist, some of that low-hanging moisture that will eventually turn into some freezing drizzle out there. So as we head through the rest of the evening here in central Kentucky, very little change in temperature. By 7 o'clock, we're around 26, 25, 24. I mean, we barely go down. Overnight, though, we're in the low 20s. We'll track that chill and, of course, that wintry weather potential coming up for you in just a little bit.
Thank you, Jim. It's been nearly 2 years since Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis was murdered along the Bluegrass Parkway.
Today, state police updated their investigation, saying they are no more closer to catching his killer. During a news conference, investigators issued another plea for help from the public. WKYT's Kristen Kennedy is in Nelson County with our top story at 5.
Investigators are begging for information on this case. They want first-hand information, and so far they haven't been able to get any.
The level of frustration is that, it's as high as it can go. 19 months into this. I've never been part of an investigation that has taken this long to solve, that had the significance of this one.
Lieutenant Jeremy Thompson with Kentucky State Police was visibly frustrated Tuesday morning, surrounded by more than a dozen of his fellow investigators, many friends with Officer Jason Ellis. Lieutenant Thompson talked about the complications of the case, keeping them from finding Officer Ellis's killer.
It's a complicated murder investigation anyway because the rural nature of where this occurred. And unfortunately for us, we have no witnesses. We have no video surveillance out there.
Officer Ellis was driving home from his shift May 25th, 2013, when he stopped to remove tree limbs in the middle of an exit ramp. Investigators say someone shot him when he got out of his patrol car.
Even knowing there's a cop killer out, whether it's in this community or not, we still have to advance and move forward.
The reward for information leading to an arrest in this case is around $185,000 right now. In Bardstown, Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
Well, state police refuse to call Officer Ellis's case cold. They say they are now waiting for first-hand evidence, and they hope their plea for information today helps.
3 people charged with reckless homicide have pled not guilty. Our county-by-county coverage begins in Boyle County. The sheriff's office says a call to 911 led deputies to the body of Gregory Lane and a house full of homemade synthetic drugs. Deputies say that Amy Young, Michael Graham, and Martin Hoskins were all in the home at the time. All 3 appeared before a judge earlier today and pled not guilty. Their preliminary hearing is set for January 21st. In Laurel County, new information today in a shooting that injured a husband and a wife. Police have now charged that husband, 67-year-old Willie Jr. Cornett. It happened last night at a home on Edgewater Road near Corbin. The Laurel County Sheriff's Office says Cornett and his wife were arguing when they both reached for a gun. Deputies say that both of them were shot and taken to a local hospital. Police arrested Cornett Tuesday morning. He is charged with assault. And in Lincoln County, fire destroyed a home near Houstonville. The fire happened overnight on Old Liberty Pike. The home burned to the ground. Only 2 chimneys were left standing. We're told that no one was living in the home at the time. It's believed to be more than a century old. Firefighters have not said yet what they believe caused the fire.
The race for governor in Kentucky is a little more crowded. Republican Will T. Scott officially kicked off his campaign today in Louisville. WKYT's Jennifer Palumbo is at the live desk with more on his announcement. Jennifer?
Amber, former Kentucky Supreme Court Justice Will T. Scott kicked off his campaign by announcing his running mate. The 67-year-old Pike County native is running with former Menifee County Sheriff Rodney Coffey. Coffey is also the former president of the Kentucky Sheriff's Association. The ticket matches 2 Eastern Kentuckians, but Scott says his ideas will appeal to voters across the state.
Now, there may be some that say, well, wait a minute, Will T., you don't have great geographical distribution and diversity. Well, yes, I do. I mean, I've been a prosecutor, public defender, circuit judge, trial lawyer, deputy chief justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court. So we know Kentucky's problems.
Endorses a constitutional amendment legalizing casino-style gambling. He said most of the money could help pay down the state's unfunded pension liabilities. In the past, that issue has failed in the General Assembly. After the announcement in Louisville, Scott and Coffey went to the Secretary of State's office in Frankfort to file papers. At the live desk, Jennifer Palumbo, WKYT.
Republicans now have 3 candidates. Scott joins Agriculture Commissioner James Comer and former Louisville Councilman Hal Heiner. Right now, the Democrats have Jack Conway and Jeff Young.
On this cold night, many of you looking forward to this. The Cats back in action tonight at Rupp Arena.
Yeah, but it is a late night tip-off. The Big Blue takes on Missouri at 9 tonight. WKYT's Rob Bromley is already at Wildcat Central. He is live with a preview. Good afternoon, Rob.
Welcome in again from Wildcat Central, as we do have a long wait, and I know what you're wondering. Are there already fans here? Yes, there are. There were fans here an hour ago when we went on the air at 4 o'clock. All arriving already despite the 9 o'clock game, as they will watch the Wildcats put their undefeated record on the line. Now, as you know, the Cats were rolling along one opponent after another in non-conference play, and they won on the road at U of L. But now in the SEC back-to-back overtime games, they're unbeaten. It's Kentucky, and of course there's a target on their back.
I mean, I've been here for 2 years. I've had a target on my back since I've been here, and that's just the way it is here. You have to get used to it and have to battle through it each and every play. One thing that we kind of knew was that we were going to be a really good defensive team, and we kind of forgot about that.
Late night here at Rupp Arena tonight, Kentucky and Missouri. The game is on ESPN. It tips off at 9 o'clock. A Missouri team that has a good win over LSU, but is only 7-8 on the season. Coming up in sports, the Cats' Devin Booker, a freshman sharpshooter. Carl Anthony Towns, his freshman teammate, and associate coach Kenny Payne will talk about him. I'll have that in sports a little bit before 6, but for now, Sam, Amber, that's it from here at Wildcat Central. Back to you.
All right, that'll warm your hearts out there.
Absolutely.
Watch some basketball tonight. A decades-old 2-story house will soon find a new location in a central Kentucky town.
Center College in Danville is moving the home from one end of campus to the other. But as WKYT's Phil Pendleton reports, because of the complexity of the process, the exact day of the move hasn't been said, but the time of the day it will take place has.
The home here at 124 North 5th Street was bought by Center College some time ago, and they tell me that the ground is not ideal, but they say there's nothing wrong with the house. So they decided to move it, but it must be done at the midnight hour.
And as we came to find out, there's actually a regulation or a statute that dictates that moves like this need to be done after midnight.
That's the time, but the date of the move isn't known. That's because the weather has to be just right.
hydraulic jacks are being used to lift the home up off of its foundation, and those hydraulics don't work once you get below a certain temperature.
24-hour notice will be given, then a very intensive, complex, and timely process will take place to move the house.
The house is going to move at about 1 mile an hour. So even though it's only moving 6 or 7 blocks, once you calculate that out, it's going to take an hour or more for it to make its path from North 5th Street to West Walnut Street.
And once the home is moved and set on a new foundation, it'll be used for student housing. In Boyle County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
And you may be wondering, school officials say the cost to move that home is considerably less than what it would cost to build a structure to house the students.
A French police official says investigators are urgently tracing the source of money to the 3 gunmen who carried out last week's deadly attacks in Paris.
And you can expect to see stronger security the next time you go to the airport.
And ahead on WKYT at 5:30, a struggling food pantry is getting some much-needed help during their busiest months. We'll tell you who stepped up to help.